Welcome to the Investor Coaching Show, a podcast to help you get an insider's view of the financial world and escape common investment traps. We look at the financial news of the day and help you make sense of it so you can relax about money. And here's your host, Paul Winkler.
And welcome to the Investor Coaching Show. Paul Winkler, talking money and investing. Joined this hour with Mr. Jim Wood, certified financial planner. Hanging out with here in the studio, talking money and investing. Okay, so, man, I'm going to let you run with whatever, and I may throw, there may be some ideas that come my way as we go this hour. Just going to let it be a free-for-all. Sort of, kind of. I was thinking...
you should have started out with some Ted Nugent.
Yeah. Is that a Ted Nugent song?
Yeah.
Free for all?
Free for all, isn't that Ted Nugent?
I don't know. I don't know. I was, it was like, I know some of his stuff, but not all of it. You probably know that better. Okay, so Jim, your experience, I just thought, I don't know, this wasn't where I was going to go, but I just thinking about your experience in financial planning. I was talking to, I'm just going to say a representative of a university that does a lot of educating on financial planning. And I was giving some of my just misgivings of the industry. And she goes, yeah, I hear that. You could tell she could, just the idea that the research on investing, we've got great research going back using data, 100 years worth of data. We have research that goes back 70 years that just looks at, for example, different factors, how they've affected investing, how you measure diversification, investment policy statements, what they are and how they work, how do you take income from an investment portfolio, the role of different investment vehicles in the accumulation processes and those types of things. And I said, and I made a comment, and she literally finished my sentence. She says, but it's not getting implemented. And I was like, wow, I was surprised that they're just that aware. I guess maybe they should be. They're educators. They should be aware that it's not getting implemented by the investing world. What was your experience? Because you dealt with a lot of teacher programs, right? Kind of before you came here.
Well, I worked in the nonprofit space, so it wasn't, I did have clients that were teachers, but it was more actually healthcare workers, people doing 403Bs, things like that.
When I hear 403Bs, I always think schools. Okay. It's just what always goes through my mind. So in the nonprofit area, and typically what did you find as far as what you were told to recommend and what you were directed to do? What was that like? I mean, how did you... When you got into the industry, what were kind of your dreams about what you were going to be doing as a person in the industry?
Well, my dreams and what I was doing were two different things.
Okay.
But
you recognized it.
That, the market that I was really trying to work in at that time was nonprofits, and typically smaller ones that didn't have plans that I could go in and help them set up a plan at little or no cost, so their employees could save if they wanted to. And there were products to do that, but the products tended to be on the expensive side.
So were they insurance company driven?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Products?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the 403B tax deferred annuities.
So recognize, folks, you'll hear commercials for investment firms and you'll look at the fine print down at the bottom. You'll typically see insurance products offered by, through, blah, 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 so far. A lot of the investing industry is driven by insurance products. The insurance industry is huge lobby. They get their way in Congress a lot for offering these types of products to the public. And there's a lot of extra expense because you got another intermediary. I mean, we call it disintermediation when you get the intermediary, the insurance company, out of the middle. But they add a layer of expense, but they add a layer of protection for the advisor because then the advisors can be taken off the hook on some liability as far as the choice of investment products. So that's what you were using. That's that type of thing. And what now you were setting up these 403Bs. Who was training you?
Well, it was the broker dealer.
I want people to hear.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I mean, the investment provider,
and that's really what and not only just on the 403B side, but for everything when how I'll explain it to clients is you get your Series 7 so you can sell stocks, you get your Series 6 so you can sell mutual funds, and then you go through training with the broker-dealer that teaches you how to move product. It doesn't teach you what the best product is. It doesn't teach you anything about academic science or any of that. It teaches you how to present this product in the best possible light so somebody will purchase it. That makes sense for the company to do that. They want to they want to maximize their profits. They want to grow the business, that type of thing. And so they will pass in on incentives to the advisor that will, okay, we want you to sell these certain products. So if you sell these certain products, you might get trips, you might get benefits, those types of things. And
I remember Get on the Ship.
Yeah.
I was working for a big insurance company, and that was the campaign, Get on the Ship.
Yeah. There was all kinds of stuff like that. And you had different levels. You could be the president's club, or you could be the president's cabinet, or you could be top of this or that. And so, the higher you did,
top of the table,
the more you sold, then the better trip you got to go on. And, and it was definitely incentivizing in terms of, I want to sell all this stuff. I want to go to Vegas, or I want to go to Hawaii or anything like that. But then the answer always comes back to, could that have influenced what I talk to clients about?
No, not at all.
Yeah. And of course, the answer is...
I remember the Friday morning meetings. I don't know if you ever had this type of thing, but we had Friday meetings, and they wanted to see how much you sold. What was your, FYC? That stood for first year commission.
Okay.
You had to report that.
Accumulated company credits or some convention credits, ACCs.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. And that was just brutal. And I'll just never forget when the broker dealer was going under, and the compliance officer says to me, Paul, what are you going to do? And then I said, I don't know. Beth, what are you going to do? She goes, I've got to go work for another investment firm. And she says, you ought to go become a registered investment advisor. And I was like, what's that? And she says, well, you've never fit in our mold, because I never got into the stuff that they were trying to get us to sell. And she would have to be watching over me, the compliance officer, make sure that I was doing what I was supposed to be putting out there as far as how I did disclosures and all that stuff. She knew very well what my business model was, and she just knew I didn't fit. And she'd go and do that. And I have to credit her. I don't even remember her last name, but Beth was like huge for me. And then, it was fun. It was really interesting. The other set of people that were really, really helpful to me starting this company was the state of Tennessee. I remember dealing with the compliance people and the regulators, and there was a guy there, Stephen, and I won't say his last name, Stephen was phenomenal at helping me set this up and make sure that it was set up. And because the idea, I was trying to set up something that there just wasn't a lot of, which is a firm that was representing the client, not representing the investment firm.
Yeah, really, really unheard of at that time, because it was just starting to gain a little bit of traction when I got into it, and that was probably 15 years after you started.
Yeah, and then now you have a bit of it, but you'll typically have a dual type of a process out there in the investing world. You'll have somebody that maybe has a registered investment advisory firm, but they also do insurance, and they do, commission-based products and those types of things. They'll have, they'll have attorneys on staff and CPAs on staff, and they try to be comprehensive, one-stop shop. But, the idea being that you don't have to go anyplace else. God forbid you go anyplace else and find out what we're doing is terrible. Is my thing. So, that from the investing standpoint, and, when you learned about, let me ask you this, when you learned that there were two very different philosophies of managing money, what was it? Was that a surprise to you, or was it, no, I suspected it all along?
I think it was more the latter, in that I had heard the passive investing argument for a long time, and it seemed to have certain advocates, but it also seemed to have evidence behind it.
And I hate the word passive, by the way. I have to say that because that's what it's called in the industry, because people act like it's passive, like you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous amount of activity going on, but the activity is not stock picking and market timing. So let me make sure I'm real clear about what he means by that.
Yeah,
you're not trying to pick which companies are going to do better than others.
Right. You're capturing market returns, essentially.
But there's a tremendous amount of activity going on as far as the way portfolios are rebalanced, the way what you're doing to offset expenses in the investing process. So, yeah.
But what happened is, in my current situation at that broker dealer is that was stuff that I would not get paid for. So it was just like, don't look at that man behind the curtain because, I didn't want to go there because to go there meant that I had to do something different. I had to move somewhere else, do a different company, that type of thing, because that wasn't an option in the world where you sold actively managed mutual funds and, annuities.
Did you ever get like really bad information about taxes and applying taxes to the investing process?
I don't really have any distinct memories of something like that.
Because I had a ton of war stories about that one. Yeah. I will just never forget all of the information that we were given on why life insurance was a good investment. Roth conversions weren't around really back then. Now that's the big thing now where people are doing Roth conversions and they're giving really bad information as to what the consequences are is what I'm finding. But back then it was more, how do you use a life insurance policy as a private pension was what it called. So I was wondering if you ever dealt with any of that stuff.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, you work for an insurance company, you come across stuff like that. So they were always wanting you to sell, life insurance, big life insurance policies.
Permanent life insurance, of course. Whole life. I guess it paid more than you can.
And you can borrow tax-free and you take out loans and then, and all that.
Yeah.
But we always leave out, well, what happens if it blows up? And then it's a monstrous tax mess. But yes, the areas that I worked in, that was more peripheral to what I was doing. It was there, but it wasn't something really that I was pushed to do a lot of. I did know about it and hear about it. But.
Yeah. Okay. So I was just curious about what that background was. So did you, when you got out of that, and you said, okay, I can't do this anymore. Was it hard to make that transition, or was it scary?
Well, it was scary in that I had to walk away from most of the business I had spent 10 years accumulating.
Oh, yeah.
And so from that standpoint, but from a long-term, what I want to really do for my clients, it wasn't that hard. I think it was harder for my wife just because she didn't, she didn't know everything that I was doing in the business and all that, and say, okay, honey, I'm going to walk away from most of my income to do this other thing. And, and she was great. Yeah. But, that's probably fairly scary for her. But for me, it was like going through the downturn of 2008, 2009, and not really having good answers for my clients. The products that I were told were designed specifically to deal with such things failed miserably. And I didn't have many answers for people out there other than, well, you should probably stay invested, which was the right answer in most cases, but I didn't have any academic evidence, anything really to back it up, and the products.
But people weren't staying put though. That's the thing that gets me.
Yeah,
they weren't.
Sure too.
I mean, you remember that article in Newsweek, was it? That they're. What was the title of it? I should know this off the back of my head because we've been using it in our workshop for so long. But, they taking money out and putting it in fixed income investments because, we don't know what's going to happen. It was good for the investment firms, but what about the clients? That article I'm talking about?
Yeah. I know you've talked about it in the past.
Sure. So you look at that and you go, well, wow, wait a minute. There was activity going on all over the place. It's kind of like when COVID happened. I don't know if you remember this stat, but it was a huge amount of money went off to the sidelines. And I don't think most of the investors didn't even know because the advisors were moving people to the sidelines during that period of time. So they missed the upturns when they happened. Same thing in, when you had the 2000 through 2002 thing happening, you had people moving off to the sidelines. But, most people don't recognize that what they're doing is market timing because they don't think of it as that. But, you just made a comment about the 2008, 2009 downturn. And, the thing that I find interesting is a lot of people are getting, they get investment advice from people that weren't even around during those periods of time. So they haven't even experienced downturns like that. And that's what I think is so important. That's what I love about all of us around here. We 25, 30 years, even more experience.
We're old.
But we've been there, done that. We got the t-shirt. There are a lot of things that we've been through that we can say, hey, I've seen this before and this is what that's like. And that being able to navigate that versus people that have never even seen a bear market, for example.
Yeah. And I was just thinking that, going through. Let me come back to my thought because it's just kind of held up in my head.
Oh, well, no. Because you're old. No,
Yeah, there we go. My mind
Did
gets
I really
going,
just go there?
My mind gets going multiple places at once, and then my mouth goes into lockdown.
I know how you are, and well, I'm proud of you. Usually writing down, making notes as I talk, but yeah. So for me, I found that in the 2000s, it was something that a lot of people had never seen, a market downturn like that, and a lot of people were just caught flat-footed. And they chased after the tech stocks back in that point in time. And then when tech stocks failed and realized that, hey, the world isn't basically what we think it is, which is technology is going to keep doubling every 18 months. Then all of a sudden, when that turned around, a lot of people just didn't know what to think, and they panicked. They got scared. A lot of people held on because they said, hey, if I hang on, the market will come back. And the reality was, and I would say this all the time, is that thing that got you into trouble, tech stocks, large U.S. growth companies, isn't necessarily the thing that gets you out of trouble. And that was indeed the case because that area did not come back for an entire decade before that area actually even came back. And there's where somebody else made mistakes. Did you think of it?
Well, yeah, I did actually, and so I wrote it down while you were talking. But at that time, what really switched things for me was at that same time, after going through that market downturn, that's also when I came across somebody teaching the academic side of investing. Mm-hmm. So a portfolio that is based on proper diversification, on things like modern portfolio theory, the multi-factor model, things like that we talk about from time to time. And that spoke to me. And it spoke to me in a way that nothing ever had during my previous 10, 11 years at the broker-dealer. And it just like I said, I always kind of knew that argument kind of off to the side, but I can't really go there because I'm not paid to do that. But just like, ultimately I want to base my career on doing what I think is going to give the clients the highest probability of success, not something that I hope works. And it's a massive difference.
Hey, this is Paul Winkler. Hope you enjoyed today's edition of the Investor Coaching Show. If you want to learn more about what we do, go to our website, paulwinkler.com. Until next time, I'm Paul Winkler, reminding you that I believe that more educated investors are more confident investors, and confident investors are more successful investors. Have a great one. Advisory services offered through Paul Winkler, Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Paul Winkler, Inc. does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation.